Death doesn't scare me. I didn't ask to be born. Life scares me. Life scares me because life is so meaningful.
Let's give a very warm welcome to someone that I admire and consider a friend and a mentor, Rabbi Manis Friedman.
Thank you, Rabbi. So, what are we talking about? Staying sane in an insane world. So, there was this guy in a shtetl back in Europe who got it into his head that he was a chicken. Happens. And all the people there could not budge him, could not convince him that he was not a chicken. Until finally one day a wise man came to town and said, I'll take care of it. Soon they see this wise man in the chicken coop with this guy who thinks he's a chicken. They're a little surprised by that. But the guy who thinks he's a chicken was really surprised. What are you doing here? He says, I'm a chicken too. He says, okay. Soon the chicken guy sees the wise man sitting up and eating a sandwich. So he runs over to him and he says, what are you doing? You said you were a chicken. He says, where is it written that a chicken can't eat a sandwich? Okay. So he also ate a sandwich. A while later, he sees the wise man leaving the coop. He says, where are you going? He's going to take a shower. He says, but you're a chicken. Where is it written that a chicken can't take a shower? Slowly, step by step, they were both behaving like a perfectly healthy, normal human being, but the chicken still thought he was a chicken. Who cares? So sometimes the insanity is not the problem. It's what you do with it. You think you're a chicken? Maybe you are. But where is it written that a chicken can't be a mensch? So if we know how to be a mensch, all the insanities in the world won't disturb us. So the craziness that's going on in the world today is because we don't have a plan of action. We're not following the behavior of a mensch. So it's not that we all need to be sane. That would be boring. Some of us need to be chickens. But even if you're a chicken, why can't you act like a mensch? And this is something that modern psychology needs to implement a little more. Oh my God, he thinks he's a chicken. So what? So what? Everybody's entitled to their opinion. They're just not entitled to hurt anybody. So act like a mensch, do what you're supposed to do, and be a chicken, gesund hate. Who cares? So really, the craziness of today is simply a lack of a plan. We have no plan. Oh, we don't know what a woman is. That kind of ruins things. So if we don't know how to behave, that's the worst part of the whole craziness. If we knew how to behave, what's the difference what you believe and think? As long as you're doing the right thing. That's our foundation. That's our... Well, let's talk a little bit about the insanity. How is this even possible? How can intelligent people become so crazy? And it really is crazy, right? Not just my imagination. It's crazy. Yeah. Where does it begin? Where do we first start to stray from the sane path? Or what is sane? Do we even know that? Like every doctor knows when you're sick. No doctor can tell you when you're healthy. It's not his job. No psychologist can tell you when you're normal. They can only tell you when you're not. So we need some real definitions. Who are we really? So that we know when we're departing or getting off the track. This is radical, radical thinking, but it's so real and so true and so simple that it took us 5,000 years to figure out. Human beings are very fragile, very dependent, very needy. We are easily hurt, we're easily destroyed, we're easily offended, we're easily discouraged. We get angry easily. We're In the olden days, things were a little more simple. What was simple? Our needs. What were our needs 1,000 years ago? To not die, basically. Just don't die and you're doing okay. So our need was to survive. And what did it take to survive? Some food, right? Food and a place to hide when the war comes in. It was quite simple. Simple meaning we had simple needs. Everything we did in almost all of history, with very, very few exceptions, everything human beings did came out of need, because we need. And what was the need? To survive. So the farmer wakes up early in the morning, wakes up his kid, and says, "Come, we got to go work." Why? Well, because it's the season of planting. If we don't get the planting in, then we're not going to get the harvest, and then the winter's going to come, and we're going to die. Well, you jump out of bed and you go to work, because you don't want to die. So the farmer wakes up his 10-year-old boy. We got to milk the cow, we got to go out and plow the fields, we got to get, and the kid did, because, you don't want to die. Today, you wake up your 10-year-old. It's late. He said, "Late for what?" "Well, you're going to miss the school bus." "Why do I need to go on a school bus?" "Well, because you got to go to school." "Why?" "Because you got to get a good mark on." "Why?" "Well, so that you get into a good college." "Well, why do I need to do that?" "Well, so that you'll get a good job." "What do I need a job for?" "Well, to make money." "And what do I need money for?" "To pay the mortgage." "What do I need a mortgage for?" "Well, what do you want to do? Live in the streets? You'll get sick and die." The kid said, "That's why I should get up. That's why I should get up today and do all of that, because if not, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to die. I'll go on welfare." The threat of death is so remote that it doesn't motivate anybody anymore. So you can't say to a 10-year-old, "Get up, you want to die?" What? So what motivates us now? See, that's why we're crazy. We don't have a motivation. Get up, be a mensch. I don't know what that means. If you sleep, you're not a mensch. Look, here's the real life-changing cosmic shift. It isn't true. It was never true that we are needy. That is such fake news. That is so misleading. And it's so destructive of the human spirit. I'm needy, I'm dependent. So my needs today have increased dramatically, and they're becoming just too much. Too much. I can't handle this. I take care of one need, there are 30 others waiting. It's never ending. And they keep growing. You listen to the commercials. You don't have one of those? You got to have one of those. Oh no. Now I have another need. So the needs build up and I can't stand it. It's too much. I don't want to get out of bed to face all those needs. So I go to a therapist. So you got to help me. I can't function. I'm overburdened. What does the therapist say? You think you know what you need? You have no idea. You have needs you've never thought of. Your mother never wanted you. You're jealous of your brother. And a joke about the guy goes to a therapist and he analyzes him and he says, your problem comes because you're jealous of your brother. He says, I don't have a brother. The therapist says, look, if you're not going to cooperate, you got to have a brother to be. So you go for therapy, all they do is give you deeper, more serious, more complex, more mysterious needs. You say, well, that's not what I came here for. I want to get rid of my needs. So you turn to religion to get a little relief, a little support, a little comfort. What do you find out? You think you have needs in this world? Wait till you die. Your needs will begin when you. Okay, so there's no escape? Why are our needs so depressing and so discouraging and so uncomfortable? Because they're not true. It is not true that we are needy. It's not true that your entire life, speaking from a non-Jewish perspective, for your entire life, you have to be on your knees begging God to help you because you're so helpless and you're so dependent and you're so fragile that you better be on his good side. Maybe he'll be nice to you. Is that a morbid description of life? Your whole life, you're fighting against your weaknesses and your dependencies and your neediness. No wonder it's depressing. It's not true. The future of psychology is we have no needs. We have no needs. And how did we discover this? Death became remote, and we realized I don't need any of this. It doesn't make sense anymore to live intensely so that you don't die. That makes no sense. You got to live. Why? Because if you don't live, you'll be dead. So, I got to tell you two very, very dramatic developments from my own limited experience. Last year, if anybody was here last year, we spoke about the difference between living and existing. Existing means occupying space. If you don't occupy space, you're not. You're not here anyway. If you can walk through a wall, there is no wall. The wall occupies its space, and you can't violate that space. But that existence also makes demands. For a human being, for example, I exist because I occupy space. Like, I was here first, it's my seat. It's my place. Don't touch me. But in order to do that, I have to eat, I have to sleep. I have to drink. I need a house. I need friends. I need support. I need love. I need validation. And when I have all of that, what have I accomplished? I can take up space. I can continue to take up space. And then do it all again tomorrow. Eat again, sleep again, drink again. It's a little depressing. Life, on the other hand, is the opposite. Life means, what difference are you making by existing? What contribution are you making? Even inanimate objects have a life. Water exists because it takes up space, but its life is it makes plants grow, keeps things cool, and makes things stick together like mud. That's its contribution. Human beings, certainly. We exist, we take up place, we use up resources, but we make a difference. Positive, negative, we make a difference. We affect our surroundings. Life makes no demands. Life is always wonderful. Life means I can make a difference. People can have a miserable existence, but that need not affect their life. Even in a concentration camp, Viktor Frankl discovered, if you have meaning, if you have purpose, you will survive. What is a concentration camp? A really miserable existence. Because it's not your place, and you don't eat, and you don't drink, and you don't sleep, and you don't. But you can be fully alive. And that has been our secret. The reason we're still here and other nations have disappeared is because they were concerned with their existence. They tried so hard to exist that they stopped existing. Our history is we hardly ever existed. When did we have a good existence? All right, a weekend, I think, in Jerusalem under King Solomon. It's been downhill since. But what's been downhill? Not our lives, our existence. For 2,000 years, we didn't have a place of our own. We couldn't occupy space. They wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us own real estate. And we didn't always have what to eat, and we didn't always have shoes, and we didn't always have freedom. So our existence, pretty miserable. But Moshe told us before we entered Israel for the first time, don't get too comfortable because your existence is never going to be good. So we said, so what's the plan? Moshe said, you be busy living, no matter what your existence is like. And that is a perfect description of Jewish history. The Jewish people hardly exist, but make the most trouble. Ask anybody at the UN. Israel doesn't exist, but they got to stop making all that trouble. We're very alive. When our existence goes down, our lives go up. We become more productive. We become more helpful to each other. We produce more scholars at our worst times. That was the thing. I have a son who lives in California, Northern California, who is the chaplain for the local penitentiary. He offered a course to the inmates 2 years ago on this subject. 18 people showed up, signed up. They took the course. And the change that they went through is stunning. A couple of months ago, I was back in California for the second run. The people who took the course at first time, invited their friends. 70 people were sitting in the room, 70 inmates. And I presented the idea and asked them if they want to sign up. 65 of them signed up. 5 didn't because they were already on their way out. They were being released, so they didn't think they needed it. These people, the average sentence is 30 to life. And 5 of the guys who graduated the course spoke. I didn't know if I was awake or dreaming because it was so surreal. This guy gets up and says, all my life I've been selfish, thinking only about myself. And that led me to becoming very angry, and I had no respect for anybody. And eventually I got into violence. But since I took the course, he says, I realize it's not about me. Life is not about me. Life means making a contribution. So he gives free haircuts to the other inmates because he wants to do something positive. Anyway, I can go on and on because they just amazing. The guy who was the predator also spoke, and he made everybody cry. He says, since I took the course, and I can explain what life is all about and the difference between it, because the prison can only interfere with my existence. They can't affect my life. Because even in prison, you got to live. You got to make a difference. He says, I call my family once a week. They listen to me. They never listen to me. My children respect me. And he got all choked up. They are very optimistic and enthusiastic about getting out. After 40 years, you're not sure you want to get out. Because what are you going to do? You're pushing 60. You haven't been in mainstream life. So they want to get out because they don't like where they are, but they dread it. These guys are so excited because they're coming out with a message for their family, for their friends, for society at large. What happened here? Under all of the visible, they thought they were needy and discovered that they're not. They're not needy, they're needed. Absolutely stunning. I couldn't believe what I'm hearing. So after the program, I spoke to each of them individually. I'm standing there eye to eye with this murderer or mass murderer. And I'm looking in his eyes because I can't believe this. And I'm looking for a sign of a little resentment, of a little coldness, of a little cynicism. Like, are they faking? What's going on here? There's nothing. They're absolutely, it sounds ridiculous. They're absolutely innocent. The potential that human beings have when you stop being needy, it changes everything. Then there's another phenomenon. Some guy in Israel was listening to my lectures and took notes. He's a professor of anthropology at the University of Tel Aviv. And he happens to have a very smooth writing style and comes easy to him. So he was taking notes, one lecture, another lecture, another lecture, and suddenly he realized he has a book. He just wrote a book. So he calls me and he says, would you be interested in publishing the book? So we worked at it, we organized it, and so on and so forth. The book came out in modern Hebrew as a secular book because he's a professor at the university. The title of the book is, in English, I Didn't Ask to Be Born. Lo bikashti lavo la'olam. I never asked to be born. And it's basically this topic that we're talking about. Am I needy? I'm not needy. I didn't ask to be born. Why didn't I ask to be born? I don't need to be. Nobody needs to be born. Is that scary? The Gemara long ago said, you are conceived against your will, you are formed against your will, you are born against your will, and you die against your will. How depressing is that? It's not depressing at all. It's so liberating. You don't need to be conceived, you don't need to be formed, you don't need to be born, you don't need to die. It's not about you. You're not the needy one. That's a relief because it's so true. Like, for example, I need to eat. I need to eat. Is that true? I don't need to eat because I never asked to be born. So if I don't need to be born, why do I need to eat? Right? So, well, if you don't eat, you're going to die. What's your point? So what's your point? Well, you shouldn't die. Why? Why? We were always afraid to ask that question. But today, 10-year-olds are asking the question. You ask a 10-year-old to put away their toys or their books, and their answer is, I didn't ask to be born. Everywhere in the world. I didn't ask to be born. So, you're pushing it far enough just with that. Now I have to clean up a room. So there was this guy, I'm sure you heard about it. This guy who took his parents to court, literally, truly. He is suing them to pay all his bills for the rest of his life. Why? Because they gave birth to him without his consent. Entrapment. You give birth to me and now I'm trapped? No, you pay the bills. They threw it out of court. I don't know why. I mean, come on, it's a good argument. Like, did I sign a contract? Did I agree verbally to pay my bills, to go to school? No, you went ahead and gave birth to me. You pay the bills. Makes so much sense. I think they threw it out of court because the parents argued, we didn't ask to be born either. So why should we pay the bills? So go to grandma. And what does grandma say? So you got to go all the way back to Adam and Eve? We don't ask to be born. That is absolutely true. Because we don't need to be. Now, as much as that's a relief psychologically, all the pressure is off me. I don't need to eat. I have a handicap. If I don't eat, I'll die. I guess I shouldn't die, so I have to eat. But it's not my need. This is how I was created. It's the Creator who needs me to eat. Because if I designed myself, I would never make myself dependent on vegetables. What kind of strange handicap is that? And if I designed myself, I wouldn't need to sleep half my life away. So do I need to sleep? No. The best example to bear in mind, a teenage boy goes off overseas to yeshiva. He arrives in the yeshiva, he goes into the office. This is back in the 60s, true story. He goes into the office, the dean of the yeshiva is sitting there, and he says to him in Yiddish, I need to call my mother. Which phone should I use? And the dean says, whoa, I need? He said, well, you don't understand Yiddish? I need to call my mother. And the dean says, what? I need? What is that? The boy was not a foolish boy. So he says, my mother needs me to call her. Which phone can I use? And the dean said to him, stop lying. Stop lying. Your mother needs you to call. You don't need to call her. So why are you taking her need and claiming that it's yours? That's a lie. I need to eat? That's a lie. Eating is not my idea, not my choice. I don't like it most of the time. I wish I didn't have to eat. But I call it my need. It's a lie. And that's why it's depressing. Because it's not true of me. That's not me. Me is not needy. I can get up off my knees. I don't have to keep begging for favor and for survival. So it's a really big relief. In the future, you go to a therapist and you say, I need some help. The therapist will say, no, you don't. Go home. Best therapy in the world. You don't need anything. Stop lying. You didn't ask to be born. You don't need to be here. Death is not a threat because, so what? Oh, you want to die? Not right now, but it's not my desperation. It's not. But that's half the story. If I really need nothing and I don't need to be alive, it sounds a little fatalistic, cynical. So what's life? The second half of the reality is you don't need, but your Creator needs you. How do we know that? He created you. Doesn't it say something? So we've had it backwards for so long. God needs nothing. He is perfect. We need all the time, everything, constantly. That is so not true. It is not real. The reality is we need nothing because we created nothing. But the Creator who creates a universe, he needs something. So the conclusion is, I am not needy, I am needed. So is my life significant? Far more than I ever thought. And what is my life? A constant avoidance of death? That's senseless. My life is partnering with God in making the world godly. That's how we have survived. When our existence was miserable, we said, what the heck? I didn't ask to be born. So what should I do? Figure out what God needs and do that. So I went from fighting for existence to having a life. Having a life means do what is needed of you. Stop being needy. There was a woman who came to the Rebbe in a panic. Her father had been in a car accident and was very seriously injured. And she came to the Rebbe for a blessing for the father. And the Rebbe surprised her. The Rebbe said, "Where's your sister?" She had a younger sister. She said, "I don't know." And the Rebbe screamed at her, "You don't know where your sister is? Go find her and take care of her." That was the last thing she expected. And she was a little upset with the Rebbe. Anyway, it turned out that while she was talking to the Rebbe, her father had already passed away. So what did the Rebbe do? The Rebbe took her from her neediness to being needed. You have a younger sister, she's a child. Go take care of her. And it really saved her sanity. This is such a radical change in the definition of a human being. We had gotten it all wrong. And what we were thinking about human beings was depressing. But we thought we had to survive at all costs, so we were busy surviving. Now that we're not so busy surviving, we have time to think. And we realized, wait a minute, I didn't ask to be born. This book, I didn't ask to be born, I am not needy, I am needed, has become the rage in Tel Aviv among people who never believed in God. It's a phenomenon. I'm talking to people who say they don't believe in God. I say, but God needs you. They say, really? He needs me? Yes. And they get really excited and they start keeping mitzvahs and they start. What is that? The God you don't believe in needs you. Oh. Isn't that amazing? It sold out 5 times, this book. And it just keeps getting among the secular, among the religious. It's rethinking everything. And suddenly, it's making sense. We know ourselves a lot better than we ever did. So how is it all going to end? Imagine if tomorrow morning, everyone in the world wakes up and says, I don't need this. Who needs me? That's it. We have a perfect world. If that happens, we have a perfect world. If you wake up thinking, I don't need anything, then you stop killing people. Then you stop stealing. You stop lying. You stop being desperate. You don't feel like a cornered animal. You don't feel burdened and depressed by your needs and you don't know who to blame. So here's what Avraham's response was when God called to him. You remember? God calls to Avraham and he says, Hineni, here I am. God knows where you are. What does Hineni mean? Now we understand. Hineni means, I'm available. I'm I'm free because I have no needs. So if you have needs, well, let me know. What can I do for you? We can get up off our knees now. So now if you're going to do a mitzvah, it's not because you're desperate to get on God's good side so that he'll be nice to you. He is nice to you. He made you his partner in creation. How much nicer can someone be than to need you? He needs us. And again, how simple is this? If he creates the whole universe, he's after something. I didn't create anything, and I have to pay the bills? It's so backwards. I don't have to pay bills. God needs me to pay my bills because that's godly. You ate something, you pay for it. That's godly, not my need. So what is going to be the end? If everyone is suddenly doing what is needed of them, this world is completely godly. And that is the ultimate purpose. And again, religion, there is absolutely no point in getting to heaven. It's so boring up there. Why is that a goal, an objective? Can't look, you're looking forward to going to heaven? That's crazy. Whoever made that a destination? Somebody said, "Why are you being so religious?" He said, "Because if you're religious, then you get to sit next to God." And the guy said, "You want to sit next to God? What are you going to talk about? That's got to be the most uncomfortable seat in the house. Put me in the back somewhere with some friends of mine." You want to go to heaven? That is such a distortion of religion. Religion means bring God down to earth. He wants to be here, and you want to go there? Torah says, serve God with joy. It now has a completely new meaning. It's not an obligation. Serve God and smile when you're doing it. No. Serve God. Be needed so that you can be happy. But if you're being needy, you are not going to be happy. Why? Because it's a lie. Your mother needs you to call, not you need to call. God needs you to be a mensch, not you need to be a mensch. So if you're serving him, there's joy. Like very simple in the last example. It's lunchtime, you're home alone. You're going to make lunch? If there's some leftovers, you'll eat it. If you open a can, a jar, or whatever. If not, forget, skip it. But somebody calls up and says, "Can I come over for lunch?" All of a sudden, it's a party. We are much happier being needed than being needy. That ultimately is our choice in life. Free choice. Be needy or be needed. How do we stay sane in a Meshuggah world? The world is Meshuggah because of need. And you can patch up one need after another, put a Band-Aid on this, put a Band-Aid on that. Get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is you think you need to eat. Worse, you think you need to live. And what's his name is interfering with my life. You don't need to live. You are needed. We're sane again. So anytime you start to feel like you need something, question it. What does your mother need? What does your creator need? Be needed, because that's true. And don't feel needy, because you don't need it. What do you think?
Great. It makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense. That's amazing. It actually makes sense. Why did it take 5,000 years to figure this out? I don't know. Now that I think about this, I think, like, what were they thinking? How did religion convince us that we're the needy ones? I know religion always dumbs down the people, right? A religion wants to keep you dumb so that you'll obey and you'll follow and you'll listen and you'll. But how did they convince us that we're the needy ones? That's so vile. Hmm? Yeah, for their purposes, they were needy. So God says, I'm taking you out of Egypt. Pharaoh needs you. I need you. That's why we're still celebrating Pesach. Because every time we think, well, he needs me, that's it. It's Pesach all over again. So let's do this. Let's partner with God at every opportunity. What can we do to make the world his kind of world? Because he needs tikkun olam, not me. I just want a nice neighborhood. Give me a nice little town, I'm happy. I don't have to fix the whole world, not my problem. So if I'm fixing the whole world, and I should, it's because he needs me to do that. Why does he need me? It's his world. Things are so logical all of a sudden. So I had one little practical. If you find something in Judaism that sounds mysterious, then it's wrong. There are no mysteries in Judaism. None. Everything in Judaism is real, it's practical, it's factual, it's knowable, it's understandable. Everything. That's another religious myth. Oh, we don't understand. Oh, we'll never know. Where do you get this from? There is nothing about God, about Judaism, about Torah that you don't understand. Nothing. So if you're having a hard time and it feels a little uncomfortable or wrong, you're probably right. Get answers. Because it does make sense. It's, in fact, the only thing that makes sense. That's how to serve God, but that's also how to be happy. Any questions?
Doesn't Kabbalah have mysticism when you say that there's no magic or no mystery? Isn't a lot of Kabbalah based upon the mysticism?
I hope that mystical and mysterious are not related. Mystical means knowing things that don't appear. Well, that's all of science. All of science means discovering things you haven't seen. Well, that's what Kabbalah is. Kabbalah is telling you what goes on in heaven, what the angels do, what they are, what they're for, what they're. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's the ability to understand what the eye doesn't see. That's wisdom. Yeah.
My defects of character stand in the way of being of service to God. So I ask God humbly to remove them. Is that a neediness? And I need Him to remove these so I can serve Him.
Exactly right. The reason, if we don't need anything, what are we praying about all the time? Are we constantly praying? Like, what's Yom Kippur? You spend the entire day pleading with God to inscribe you in the book of life. Who cares? But you're right. I'm asking God to make my existence a little more pleasant so I'm not distracted from doing for Him. It's like if you're given a job, some company hires you, you expect an office, a desk. Not because you need a desk, but because the desk allows you to work for the company. The bigger the office, the better you can work for the company. So that's what prayer is all about. I want to serve you. Help me. Not help me with my need. Help me do what you need. It's like a good marriage. I want to be a good husband. Tell me what you need. No, don't tell me. Let me guess. It's not nice. So when I ask for information, it's not because I need the information. It's because I want to do for you what you need. So don't make it hard on me. In fact, talking about Yom Kippur, Hasidic insight is it's so healthy. The idea that you come Yom Kippur, you come to synagogue because, traditionally, right? Because you know you sinned. You know you're in trouble. You come Yom Kippur to the synagogue, try to patch things up between you and God so that you don't die. Right? Remember us for life, inscribe us in the book of life, give me life, let me live, don't kill me. That's Yom Kippur. That is so pathetic. The Hasidic version is death doesn't scare me. I didn't ask to be born. Life scares me. Life scares me because life is so meaningful. So when we come on Yom Kippur and we promise God to be better this year than last year, it's not because we're afraid of death, it's because we're afraid of life. Meaning, we know God is going to give us another year of life. We're not paranoid. Of course, He's going to give us another year of life. What we're worried about is, I don't want to waste this year the way I wasted it last year. So out of awe for life, I want to do better. So inscribe me in the book of life means give me the wisdom. What's a book? It's not a list, it's a book. Inscribe me in the book of life. Give me the wisdom about life so that I don't waste it like I did last year. So we're not afraid of death, we're afraid of life. Death is dead. But life is a challenge. Life is a responsibility. You don't need to be smart to die. Stupid people die. But you need a lot of wisdom to live. Life is exciting. Yes.
We move to the other room. We do our brunch. We will continue the Q&As in about 20 minutes after we've all eaten a little bit and settled down. And the Yasha Kola.
But we don't need to eat. We're going to eat only because the rabbi said, strictly for godly purposes. It'll be a religious experience. We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal, it's questions and answers, it's conversation. It's really relaxed, it's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program, there's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid-back, unscripted. So join us, take a look, click the link below, and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.